Welcome to the I Love Coaching podcast, where we believe coaching solves everything.
Welcome back to the I Love Coaching podcast, everybody. My name is Adam Roach. I am your host today, and today we have a very special guest. This guest, if you are in Texas, needs absolutely no introduction. And actually, I'm sure if you are a football fan across the country, this man needs no introduction. And I have one of the most winningest coaches in high school football in the state of Texas, Mr. Coach Allen, right now in the I Love Coaching podcast. Coach Allen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, the pleasure truly is all ours as it relates to coaching. We cannot wait to pick your brain for the next 30 minutes or so. So we always start the show here at the I Love Coaching podcast with something very, very simple. And it is, Coach Allen, you were born, and then what happened?
Well, my parents told me I didn't have to play football. I could always find another place to live. I had football in my crib. My dad was a football player. My dad coached me in Little League. I grew up playing all sports, whatever was in season. I grew up in Abilene, Texas, and at age 12, I could see the Abilene Eagles winning state championships with their head coach, Chuck Mosier, who was like the mayor of Abilene, and I wanted to be just like him. And so I made it a goal to be a football coach, and I've not regretted it. I've just had a great career, and I've been in it 47 years, and I look forward to every football season.
Wow, that is incredible. So you and I are somewhat cut from the same cloth. My father was an Olympic swim coach. So coaching has been in my world my entire life, and it sounds like it's been in yours pretty much your entire life as well.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Go
been
ahead.
fortunate to have great coaches. I can remember my middle school coaches being great men of character, and then my high school coach was Merrill Green,
Mm-hmm.
and Merrill had been an All-American at the University of Oklahoma when Bud Wilkinson was the head coach, and he hired me for my first coaching job right out of at Southern Methodist University. But my college coach was a Hall of Famer, Hayden Fry, and another Hall of Famer was my position coach, Jerry Moore, who was the head coach at Texas Tech and Appalachian State.
Wow, that's incredible. So you did go on to play football at SMU, right?
I played football and baseball at SMU, yes.
Wow. Now, for all of our listeners, we have entrepreneurs that listen, we have business owners, we have athletes, we have you name it, the I Love Coaching company has the listeners of. Is it true that football in the state of Texas is just as religious as basketball? I'm from Indiana, as basketball is in the state of Indiana. Is that true?
I think football is very important in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it depends on who you ask. We've been playing some great basketball in Texas lately. But football, as I was growing up, it was the sport in the fall that you played. I tried to play basketball, and I ran track and played baseball. Whatever's in season is what I wanted to do. But football is very important in Texas. We have more people attend our games. We have, this is a 100-year celebration of Highland Park football. We started playing in 1923, and we've got some unbelievable former players that played at Highland Park. But our alumni base is so attached to our high school because they remember their football playing days. And I've been there 24 years, and I'm coaching some of the children of the boys that I coached when I first got here in 1999.
How about that? So let's go back to your coaching day. So you're out of now SMU from playing, and now you go into coaching, and you were an assistant coach first, right?
Well, I was a head baseball coach, assistant varsity football coach when I first started.
Gotcha. And what do you feel what was the desire to get into coaching? Was that just the natural progression, or did you have something internally that said you got to go lead these boys to something bigger, better, faster, stronger?
I wanted to have the same impact that my coaches had on my life, and I think Pat Dye gets credit for this quote, but I was called to coach like a preacher's called to preach, and that's kind of my passion for coaching was a calling, and it was a calling not only to make young men better athletes and win a lot of football games, but to make them better men, better husbands, better fathers.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So what we do here at the I Love Coaching Company is we coach what we call whole life millionaires. There's so many business owners out there that want to be millionaires in the space as it relates to dollars. And again, having watched my father do all the coaching that he did while he was alive, to watch him grow, just like you said, men, right? Grow them into the right space to be the best humans as it relates to being adults that they could be. And that's what I just heard you say there is you also created amazing adults, right?
Right. There's a scripture that says in the Bible, Jesus increased in wisdom, stature, and favor with God and man. And we call that the four square life. So we improve our players physically, mentally, spiritually, and intellectually. And so, we want the whole person to feel like they're getting mentored when they play for our football team.
That's absolutely amazing. So then we go into the head coaching space. Your first job was in Brownwood, right? That was for the first head coaching job in football?
No, I was at Ballinger, Texas, the Ballinger Bearcats.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Ballinger. The Brownwood was the second one, right?
Right.
Yeah. So Ballinger. Now, well, I don't know. I'm sure you know this, but as I was doing homework to prepare for you, I noticed a 5-year trend there for a little bit. And then when you got to Highland, it lasted a little bit longer. Now, though, what I saw in Ballinger, again, you turned that program around from where it was to, again, ultimately where it became a contender. When you turn something around, so we have, again, business owners that listen to this. What did you have a 3, 5, 10 step process to turn something around? And what was your methodology there with turning stuff around?
Well, let me just tell you a story. Spike Dykes, who used to be the head coach at Texas Tech, told me when I was a young coach that you need to move about every 5 years because every year you make about 10% of the people mad at you. And after 5 years, you've got over 50% of the people in town mad. So that was kind of the way it went for me. But the process was you got to get the kids to trust you and buy in. So the first thing, was I wanted those young men to have success, and I wanted them. So we started going to powerlifting meets, and they were strong. They just didn't believe they could win. So as they saw that they could lift weights with some of our competition, they started getting a little confidence. And then you got to have a Moses, somebody leads you out of the wilderness. We had a quarterback that his first pass as a sophomore was a touchdown, and he wound up being the guy that led us to the state quarterfinals and went on to earn a scholarship to Texas Tech. He was Aaron Cassee. But what happened, bottom line is you got to get them believing. And they called them the Beer Cats when I got there because they drank a lot of beer, but they didn't play very good football. And they knew how to lose. They knew how to cry and roll around the floor, but they didn't know how to win. And so we had to get them to buy into an off-season program where we put them through some real tough conditioning and weightlifting. And then once they started believing and realizing they could compete, then we had to teach them skills that would make them better. We had a great scheme, and I had a great coaching staff. And we tried to outcoach people. We tried to put our players in positions where they could be successful. And then once you start having success, then it starts building in the younger grades. We'd have pep rallies. They let the 7th and 8th graders out of class, and they'd line the road as we would leave town, going to a playoff game. So those young boys started dreaming about being Bearcats. And, that winning tradition continued years after I left because those little boys grew up watching the Bearcats win.
Yeah.
I had a different challenge at Brownwood because I followed Gordon Wood, who was the winningest coach in Texas at the time. And I was naive and not very smart, I guess. And I took that job, and I didn't realize that it was going to be impossible to meet expectations. Coach Wood had won 9 state championships there. Wow. And he introduced me to the team. I actually played at Abilene Cooper when we played Brownwood I was a senior and Coach Wood was the coach at Brownwood. But anyway, he introduced me to the team. He said, introduced me as Randy Allen. And, so, it was hard for me there because, to get them to believe in me, I came from a 3A school, Ballinger, Texas, and I had won a state championship. So it was hard to get buy-in from those young men. But we did have success, but it was very difficult because the expectations were really high.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, no. I was going to dive a little bit deeper into that. So you're following a legend there, right? And we have listeners that are not CEOs yet, but maybe they're going to go be CEOs and they're going to go follow some amazing CEOs. You look at Jack Welch, right? Jack Welch, the person that followed him, I don't know his name, right? And so what were some of the steps and what were some of the things you brought into those men, those young boys, in the belief and then the skills, and then put them in the position to be successful there at Brownwood after following such a legend?
Well, I would like to say that it was all easy and that we had all this success, etc. But it was very difficult. I just felt the pressure of trying to, please the fans and please the Coach Wood, and to do that, you had to win every football game. You had to go 16 and win a state championship. And when we would end the season in the playoffs, we'd have a great season. We'd win 12 games, but we might get beat in the playoffs. And I always felt disappointed. And it was so much more fun when I went into a losing program and turned it around than going into a great traditional program and trying to maintain that tradition, especially since I had not played at Brownwood. The interesting thing is in their school song, it's "Here's to Coach Wood's Lions, boys." And when I came in, it was the first time in, 30 years they had sang that song with my name in it. It was "Here's to Lions, boys." So anyway, a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure, yeah. Though you had success, right? Almost very similar to Ballinger's record in 5 years, right? 44-15, then 43-13.
Right. And we did the same thing there that we did at Ballinger, and I did at Bryan High School. I mean, we loved those kids, and we treated them like men, and we taught them the skills they needed to be successful. And we tried to get the best athletes out for football, and we taught leadership. We had a very close coaching staff that worked very hard together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So now, and then you moved back to your alma mater, right?
Right, Abilene Cooper.
Now, let me before we go there, at either Ballinger or Brownwood, did you make it to the state finals?
No.
Gotcha. Okay, so I want all of our listeners to hear this. We have one of the most winningest coaches in Texas football history. 10 years goes by and he doesn't even make it to the state championship, right?
Right.
But then we go back to your alma mater, and what did I read here? In 5 years, there's our 5-year trend. In 5 years after being the head coach, you take him to a state championship, right?
Well, we got to the state finals. We sure did. And my goal was, when I was a senior in high school, we were defeated in the state championship game 20-19 on the last play of the game. Quarterback sneak. Jack Miller was our quarterback. He was third runner-up the Heisman Trophy at the University of Oklahoma. But we ran a quarterback sneak from the 1-yard line the last play of the game against Austin Reagan at Amon Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, and the officials didn't give us a touchdown. So my goal was to go back and get that 1 inch that I didn't get as a player.
Wow.
And we got to the state championship game, and it's a long story. Bottom line is Drew Brees was the quarterback for Austin Westlake. I had a great running back named Dominique Roach who played in the NFL for a long time.
Played for the Colts.
And Austin Westlake, we turned it over in the second half, and Westlake beat us pretty good. But we got there, and I don't think we'd have gotten there if we hadn't had the dream. And, sometimes the dream is the passion of the dream drives you to that goal. And to get to that goal, or to win that goal in the state of Texas, there's 250 great football teams and great football coaches, and the ball has to bounce right, and if you that if you turn it over in the big game, you're not going to win against a great football team. But our guys had a great season to get there.
Yeah. And to go back into that history. So now you playing at your alma mater was 1967, and they hadn't been back to the finals since 1967, right?
Right. In 96, we went back. Yeah.
In 96, you went back. So again, now we're in a 15-year period of your coaching career, and you made it back to the pinnacle made it to the pinnacle as a coach. Now,
Right.
Let me ask you a question logistically. So you said there's 250 teams. I know that there's a class ranking of football.
Yeah.
Do they play state championships based on class, or is it all wide open?
Well, I just rounded it off. They play
Sure.
based on enrollment. And
Okay,
so,
based on enrollment.
yeah, the largest schools back when, it's changed over the years, but
Oh, yeah.
usually come to Texas, the largest enrollment is 6A, and that could be anywhere to 6,000, 7,000, a lot of students. And then you've got 5A, which usually starts around 2,500, somewhere around there. You got 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A, and 6-man football.
Gotcha.
And within those classifications, you've got some great teams and a lot of teams that you have to beat to win a state championship. Actually, you have to win 16 games to win a state championship, and you play the state championship on the week before Christmas. And we play one side at AT&T Stadium. They play all the games there over about a 5-day period.
Wow. So that's a lot of football.
A lot of football.
That's a lot of football.
Yeah, it's as many as an NFL team plays to win a Super Bowl.
Exactly. Growing up in the state of Indiana, I'm sure you've seen the movie Hoosiers. When I was in high school, that still was the way that they ran the state championship basketball, was all teams made it in to the tournament based on how they performed. And I'll never forget my senior year in high school, we won the state championship, but we came up against a smaller school that didn't have as big of players, didn't have as many namesakes on there. We had our Indiana Mr. Basketball on our team, and we only won by 1 point because their dream was, they had the dream of winning, but they did not want to lose to us, and they almost beat us. That's for sure. Yeah. So now let's fast forward, because now you were at your alma mater for how many years? Was that nearly 10 years?
8 years, yeah.
8 years, gotcha. And then you moved to where you currently are, which is Highland
Park High School, Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm. One of the most decorated football programs in all of Texas, right?
It is, and it's right down the street from Southern Methodist, where I played.
Yeah, so it's all coming home, huh?
Right. When I left to Abilene, Cooper, my best friend who I played ball with at SMU said, "Randy, you won't win a state championship at Highland Park," because it'd been like 48 years since they'd won.
Yeah, 40. That's what I read. 48 years. And then if my research serves me correct, you won a state championship there with the guy that just won the Super Bowl last year, right?
Right, Matthew Stafford. He was an 8th grader when I came to Highland Park, and I knew that looking at our depth chart, he'd have a chance to start when he was a sophomore. So I went down to the 8th grade, got him out of class, and asked him what his goals were. And he said he wanted to win a state championship. And I said, "Those are my goals too." And he wound up leading us to the state championship in 2005, his senior year, and then went to University of Georgia at midterm. And so you go through spring training. But I was able to be at the draft the year in New York when he was drafted number 1. And then I was there at the Super Bowl when he won last year.
Were you really? What an incredible story there.
Yeah, it was great.
Now we'll pause this simple little interview here of going through you. I want to talk to now the man, Coach Allen. You see a player like Matthew go through, you've known him since 8th grade, go through that progression. What type of feeling does that give you, the coach, to see that individual not only grow as a professional athlete, but also grow now as a man, as a contributor to community and society, as probably a husband and a father? What type of feeling does that give you to see him show up the way he has.
Well, I'm just so proud of him and
Mhm.
type of man that he is and the way he represents Highland Park High School, the way he represents LA and the NFL. He's got 4 little girls and he's a great husband, a great dad, and a great role model. He's very humble, but if you watch the Super Bowl, if you watch the sidelines, he was a great leader on the sidelines, just encouraging his teammates. And he will be the first one to take the blame if something goes wrong, and the first one to give credit to somebody else when things go right. But you just hope that he learned something while he was playing for us at Highland Park that made him the kind of man he is.
Right. Now, you use the word leadership there. So do you believe that that's something that can be taught and instilled in these kids? Do you think they have it innately? Do you think they get it from their environment? Where do you think that comes from?
We're very intentional about teaching leadership. We have 6
Mhm.
core values, and we have hand signals for each of those core values, and we teach them from the 7th grade to the 12th grade. So every little boy in the 7th grade should be able to tell you what our 6 core values are: commitment, enthusiasm, mental and physical toughness, teamwork, integrity, and tradition. And we have a definition for each one of those values. I also have 12 player committee members that are elected by their teammates that meet with me once in a week in the mornings, and we study a book or we study something on leadership. And then we have 4 captains. Sometimes we'll have as many as 5 or 6 captains, but those guys will meet with me as well. And here's the key: you got to give our guys ownership of the program. I want those guys to feel like it's their program, and I want them to feel like the baton's been handed to them. They got to leave the place better than they found it. They've got to do something with their senior year, with the tradition, to make it better than it was before they received, before it was their turn to write their story. And our guys take a lot of pride in that. They work very hard to be the best.
Yeah, that's incredible. What are some of the legacies, or what are some of the things that they have instilled into the school and or the program there?
Well, the motto for our school is enter to learn, go forth to serve.
Mm.
And have to have over 100 community service hours before they can graduate. So built into those young men and every student at Highland Park High School is the idea that we've been gifted with a lot, and so we got to give back to the community. Another unusual thing about our school is that every person that served in the military has their name on a plaque right inside the school building. So whether you served World War I, World War II, it doesn't matter. If you served, your name is on a plaque inside our school building, and the patriotism and the fact that you're giving back to your country is important. We've had, just unbelievable success. Last year, Matthew won the Super Bowl. Scotty Scheffler, graduate, won the Masters, and then Kershaw had already won the World Series and been the Cy Young Award winner. So those 3 graduates have given so much honor and glory back to Highland Park High School, and we're just so proud of them because all 3 of them are great men.
Yeah, that's truly incredible. Now, I want to go down the path of retiring and then coming back. Walk us down that path. Number one, what was the catalyst for wanting to retire with such a passion, drive, and energy for the game of football? And then you said, well, I'm going to pause there. I'm going to come right on back.
Well, for winning a state championship takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort. I mean, you're working 7 days a week for 16 weeks, 7 days a week for 16 weeks. And there's a lot of emotional energy that goes with it. So we had won back-to-back state championships, and we'd won it in 2016 and 2017. The 2017 game has been called the greatest high school football game that's ever played. We came from behind late in the game, had to recover an onside kick. We had to make 4th and 14 to win the game, and we tackled their Manville's guy on the 1-yard line at the last play of the game to win it. And so people think that after your last after your state championship game, that's all you got to do. But you got to order rings. You got to get your banquet together. John Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones's grandson, was our quarterback. So I was working with Stephen Jones to do a documentary on the football team. And so when the rings came in, we had a huge ring ceremony. We had a documentary in the auditorium. And so it's all this energy that I had to expend for 2 years in a row. And I mean, I just got exhausted. I didn't realize it, but I was running on empty. And so this idea that I couldn't duplicate what I'd just done, the idea that I just coached one of the greatest football games, and that if I went back out in the arena and I competed again, it wouldn't be the same, or I couldn't duplicate it. That thought kept going through my mind. And so I had some mentors. I had 3 mentors, and these were men that had, anytime I'd make a big decision, I'd always talk to these 3 men, and they were former coaches, and they were guys that loved me and told me the truth. And they said to me, Randy, you couldn't pick a better time to retire, but you got to have a piece about it. Mm. And so I prayed about it, and I got a meeting with the superintendent for, let's say, Thursday. So Wednesday night I go to bed and I'm still not sure. I've met with my family. I met with my son. We're ready, if I pull the trigger, to make an announcement on, internet, email, etc., to let people know. When I got up that morning, I told my wife, I said, okay, let's do it. I'll have the family up there at 2:30. I'll call a press conference. I'll tell the coaches in the morning. I'll tell the players before I go to the press conference. We'll do the press conference and we'll get it done. And so I told the coaches. They were totally surprised. I told the team, and I hugged everyone. I'm telling them I loved them. And then I went to the press conference, and I had it written out what I was going to say, and I made it through without crying. Mm-hmm. But I got home from the press conference, and I started having doubts. And I came to Abilene to see my folks, and my sister-in-law saw me, and she said, you look so sad. Mm-hmm. And then I went over to one of my mentors' house, and his wife said, well, how does it feel not to have a purpose anymore? Mm. And my mentors had told me, Randy, there's life after football. Once you make that decision, don't ever look back. Well, I would start crying at home, and I'd tell my wife, I said, okay, tell me what Jimmy Keeling said. Tell me don't look back. Keep telling me that. Don't look back. So after about 2 weeks, I'm sitting in my car out in front of the indoor facility where our guys work out, and I called Gil Brandt, the old Dallas Cowboy personnel director. And I told him how I was feeling. And he said, well, go get your job back if that's how you feel. And then I called Coach Green, and I told him how I was feeling. And he said, Randy, don't feel bad about going, changing your mind. And he gave me an example in his career where he had told, he told Midland High he was going to go there as an AD, and then he changed his mind and went back to Abilene Cooper and coached us our senior year. But so his point was, just because you change your mind doesn't mean that you lack integrity. And so I got out of my car and I walked to the superintendent's office, and I just sat down and waited for him. And I didn't know, but he had just had his first interview to replace me. So he came into the office and we sat down, and I said, Dr. Trigg, I'd like to come back as a football coach. And he said, well, give me an hour. I'll meet you at your house and I'll let you know, because, we've already started the interview process and I need to talk to some people. So I went back to my house, and he came over there an hour and he said, Randy, we want you coaching. And, next time, if you decide that you want to get out, just give us a little bit more warning, but we want you back. Well, the team, they're thinking that there's another coach coming, but I called a team meeting for that next morning. Well, they're all waiting for me to announce the next coach, And I said, guys, I've decided to come back, and they looked at me like I was crazy, I think. But anyway, they rallied, and we won another state championship in 2016, and we went 16-0. And I look back and think what I would have missed if I hadn't have gone back on hadn't followed my instincts and gone back. I mean, my family couldn't believe it that I was going back. And I'd already been investigating other things to do, and I'd have people contact me, and some people, some of my mentors didn't think I should go back, but it was the best thing that I guess it's been 5 or 6 years since that happened, and I have not looked back. It's been a great experience.
What an amazing story. Thanks for sharing all that. That's the takeaway that I just had there is, number one, surround yourself with people, right? You might have a decision to make, but you better surround yourself with people that can also hear you and be a shoulder for you when you need it. That's one of the first things that I heard you say there. Right. And the second thing that I heard was listen to yourself also. Listen to your gut, right? Yeah. Listen to the inside of you. Well, boy, what a punch that was. Now, I think you said your sister-in-law or somebody. Now what's your purpose? Or whatever you said.
Yeah. Yeah. It shakes because that's the only, that's the purpose that's kept you going. I mean, like I told you, I was called to coach like a preacher's called to preach. I mean, that was my calling. That was my purpose. And when I lost it, I mean, it was just, I didn't have another goal out there that I was shooting for.
Mm-hmm. Curious, what would you say to someone that maybe is in the same situation, right? They've had success in their role, whatever that role may be, and they're looking for, maybe it's a next level success, or maybe it's an opportunity just to take a break, or maybe they went out completely. What advice would you give to someone that may be going through something very similar that you went through?
Well, what I would say is, what I wished I'd had is another goal out there. Like everywhere I'd coached, I'd always had it was never the end place that I wanted to be. I was always climbing, I was always going to what I thought was a better place, a better job, a new challenge. And when I got to Highland Park and had so much success, there was no place that I could go in high school that was better than where I was at. And so it had to be another vocation. It had to be another goal. It had to be something. And I just hadn't set that. Football is my hobby. That's number one. I mean, I'm probably too focused on football because I don't have any other hobbies to speak of. I mean, I love to trout fish, love to fly fish, etc. But bottom line, during football season, I mean, that's what I do. I love to study football, love to call plays and all that. But I think what I've started doing is looking for that next step. I don't think I want to ever just retire and not do anything. I'm always looking. Now I'm trying to set another goal out there, or another something that I could get excited about. And I may just keep coaching. That's always an opportunity. My good friend, one of my mentors, coached till he was 76 years old.
Wow.
My dad's 98 and a half and just took his driver renewal test. And so he got 2 more years to drive, so he could drive to at least 100. So, I mean, I've got good DNA, got good genes, and I just I'm still highly motivated and think I'm still effective.
Well, and then what else did I read that, well, heck, that was 2016. Y'all won your 800th game, and now here we are. What is that? 4 years removed from that. So maybe 1,000. We're gonna go for 1,000 wins.
Well, 3 more, and I'm the second winningest coach in the history of Texas high school football. And the guy that's ahead of me has got 490. I'd have 436 or something like that. So to be number one, I'd have to coach for 5 or 6 more years. So who knows?
Well, it sounds like you got it in you, sir. It definitely does. Well, I know we're right here on time, and I could talk to you for the next 5 hours. That's for sure. I really appreciate your time, your energy, and just your words of wisdom here that you've imparted on all of our listeners. We can feel the coaching spirit coming out in you, and this is definitely something that we love to connect with. being the I Love Coaching company. All day, every day, we are looking to find and build people in their space, right? That is one of our missions, is we help people get better at what they do. And that's really what our vision is to continue to empower coaches to change 100 million lives by using what we call our REAL coaching model. And REAL stands for relevant, experiential, authentic leadership. And with that acronym, that's what all of our coaches wear as a badge of honor, is that they are a real coach. And we take them through that process when they come on board here as a coach of the I Love Coaching organization, is that they become a real coach. And so this has really inspired me to take a lot of what you've done there in your leadership space and getting the buy-in. And I have no doubt that our listeners are probably writing notes at the same speed that I was. So thank you.
Thank you, Adam.